resistance, drought resistance, resistance, resistance to other resistances, and the possibilities are endless. And this is all like stuff that's happening right now. Maybe not resistance before, but this is all happening right now in like actual labs. Coming soon. Well, these are some ideas I've had. This is turned into a Kickstarter pitch. If anyone would like to fund me to build Bulbasaur, I'm more than happy to accept donations. But yeah, at the risk of being sued by Comicon for peddling products, I'm going to hand it over to Brad.
All right, cool. So today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some engineering concepts that we've done with microorganisms, or as we like to call them in the lab, low overhead employees. With these bacteria that have all these great, imagine like I don't know, the Justice League or the Fantastic Four. You could tell them to do whatever it is that you wanted them to do for you, right? So that's kind of like what we're trying to do with the microbes. It's like, hey, you have this awesome superpower. Do it for me, and be happy that I let you live. And so, first I wanted to start by just thanking the microorganisms. So all the bacteria that are in the room, thank you. You helped provide the oxygen that was essential for basically higher mammals and eukaryotes to evolve on this planet, right? So these photosynthetic microorganisms, these ancient photosynthetic microorganisms that still persist today, were actually the microorganisms that were responsible for generating a lot of the oxygen that's in our environment now. And we can take advantage of these photosynthetic microorganisms, right? So they can fix a lot of CO2 that's in the atmosphere, it's in the environment, right? And we know that CO2 is kind of a, well, at least for the last 15 years, has really been a bit of a buzz topic because of all of the consequences of global warming and putting a bunch of CO2 out into the environment. And so what can we do with these microorganisms that are capable of sucking in all of this CO2 is we can grow them in what's called photobioreactors, which you can see here. So these are basically big, long tubes that are full of photosynthetic microorganisms. And they can take all the CO2 out of the atmosphere, and they can generate, right, lipids or fuels, like a rocket fuel or a diesel fuel, right? So if you think about all the oil that we have now in the ground that we take out, a lot of that is just fossilized cyanobacteria, fossilized microorganisms. So what are we trying to do? We're trying to take a process that took billions of years, and we're trying to make that process fast enough to where now we can generate that oil kind of in real time to meet our demand. So that's what we're trying to do with these cyanobacteria and also algae, which I think is kind of neat. This is the research that I did, and Cass talked about this a little bit earlier, and that is there are microorganisms that are capable of either eating electricity or pooping electricity out, right? And so these microorganisms here, you call them anode-respiring bacteria, so they're bacteria that are capable of basically breathing a metal or breathing an anode. And so these are the ones where I was telling you about. We can put them in a microbial fuel cell, is what we call it. We can put poop in there, and the microorganisms can eat our poop the same way that we would eat, say, a cheeseburger, right? And then they're going to generate ATP. So we eat the cheeseburger, we get ATP, we poop it out. They eat the cheeseburger poop, they generate ATP, and then they take those electrons and they put them onto an anode in a battery, right? So now you have microorganisms that are kind of working as a catalyst to convert your poop into something that you could, I don't know, turn your PlayStation on with or whatever, right? So I really like this idea because I get the first lap and a last lap, right? As I mentioned earlier, for those of you who were here earlier, you pay me to take your poop, right? Every time you pay a bill to flush your toilet, right? And then you pay a bill to turn your light switch on, right? So you get to pay me to take it, and then you get to pay me to take it back. Or pay me to give it back, which I think is win-win for me. Another really fantastic thing that some microorganisms can do, and some of the other panelists have been mentioning this, is microorganisms can live and grow on a lot of cool stuff, right? A lot of stuff that you wouldn't even imagine things could grow on, right? Nuclear waste, for example, right? Uranium waste. And so what this is a microorganism. The red here is a microorganism. And all of this black that you see here, this is all uranium, right? So you can get water that's contaminated with certain oxidation state of uranium that is soluble, right? In other words, you can't tell that it's in the water. And these microorganisms can then change the oxidation state of that uranium, and it becomes these black rocks. And then getting uranium out of contaminated water is as easy as having a screen or a filter, and you just pass the water through, and you collect all the uranium and take it out. Some other cool things that you can do with microorganisms is you can make what's called bioplastics, right? So this is the idea of making a plastic with a bacterium that is also then biodegradable, because we don't want any more garbage islands. So for those of you who don't know, we have quite a few garbage islands that are out in the middle of the ocean that are just full of all of our plastic waste, because every time we consume a plastic cup like this, it's got to go somewhere, and it usually ends up in the ocean. And they're also safe for hospitals as well. So they're kind of also biocompatible. So you make a bioplastic, and then you can use it on a patient, and they're not going to get sick or have some kind of, get an infection or something because of the plastic is incompatible with their body. The last one I want to talk to you about, so that we have an opportunity to open up to questions. There's some really cool implications about the NASA or the space microbes that I want to talk about. Is biocement. So this is kind of a double-edged sword with microorganisms. So we have two cool things. One of them's a problem and one of them's a great solution. And it's interesting how microorganisms can both cause us problems and then solve those problems at the same time. But we have a lot of corrosion in cement that has to do with microorganisms that can essentially generate sulfuric acid in the sewer lines. And that sulfuric acid rots away at the cement that makes up the sewer lines. But we also have microorganisms that can make calcium carbonate, right, which is essentially limestone. And you have the idea of if you can put microorganisms into concrete now that can generate limestone, you have self-healing concrete, right? So you have microorganisms that can put you in a really bad situation, and then microorganisms that might be able to potentially solve that same really bad situation. And I think that was all I had, so now we can open up for questions.
Yay! I've been told I have to be meeting now and tell anyone who is not sitting in a chair to leave, and that sucks a lot. Fire marshal rule or something like that. I don't know. Okay, boo! Let's talk about fun things now.
Does anyone have a chair available next to them? Raise your hand. There's a chair.
Oh, yes.
Nice chair right here.
Yes, chair. For the people who want to stay for the fun part. This is my favorite part of this. So we have like a billion more examples of like crazy cool things that bacteria can do, fungi can do, living very well on nuclear waste. I did a bunch of work in my undergrad with microbes that love to eat mercury. So ask away. We're excited to hear your questions.
I think we got one right here.
So the agrobacteria, when you use that to transfer DNA, you're saying how it kind of basically plants cancer, but how do you make it so that, I mean, is that DNA transferable? So when when that plant goes to seed, does that DNA stay in it, or would you have to treat every seed with agrobacteria to give it?
Yeah, so the question for you guys in the back was basically like, is the DNA we give to the agrobacterium, does it keep going on like throughout the plant germline? Like does it appear in seeds? And that's actually a really good question. So basically, agrobacterium is used to do plant genetic modification, and it's most often used to do transient expression. So basically, only that plant will express it. However, you can engineer it so that the seeds you recover from it, if you want to like recover seeds from it, will possess the trait that you want to put into it. So you could have a sustainable long-term modification of plants.
So basically you can do whatever you want. You can have them produce something for you right away, or you can genetically modify them forever and they'll always produce it.
I've been reading about how in hospitals, we always use the hand sanitizer antibacterial soap that is actually making super bacteria, and that it also doesn't kill viruses, only bacteria. So how should we not use the antibacterial stuff anymore, just regular soap?
For a lot of reasons, I'll just give one that I know about. A lot of antibacterial soaps are kind of a gimmick and maybe not so great for the environment. Triclosan, a common antibiotic in soaps and plastics and stuff, has been banned in Minnesota and other states because to be effective, it has to be left on for upwards of 10 minutes. No one washes their hands for 10 minutes. Like not.
I do.
That's okay.
So I think that it was actually just removed from all soap. So I think the triclosan has now been removed from all soap, which is a good thing. It doesn't do anything. The soap itself is going to remove anything dangerous on your skin as long as you wash your hands correctly. You know, which granted maybe a lot of people don't do, but we don't need it there, and it's not doing anything good for us. It's just creating more superbugs. So.
And does the hand sanitizer only kill bacteria, not viruses?
No, right?
Yeah, most like antibacterial soaps target very specific like parts of bacterial cell walls, and the cell structure of a virus is very different from like a bacterial cell wall.
But whereas if you have like a hand sanitizer that's like a chemical base, like the alcohol-based ones, they're gonna kill anything. It doesn't matter what it is. It's like bleach. It's gonna use bleach. There's no microbe that's resistant to bleach.
Don't bleach your hands.
Yeah.
When at the end, well, I guess all of you are kind of talking about, you know, here's the application of what we would use these for. How far along is some of that application? Like you were talking about the removing the uranium from water. Is that being done right now?
Yeah, right. So a lot of these technologies are currently being kind of turned into, taken over by enterprise. So for example, the algae fuels. There's a company now, I believe in Chandler, called Heliae that's working on algae fuels. Microbial fuel cells, there's a company called Precambrian Innovations in Massachusetts. Another one that was here, MFC Systems, based out of Arizona. And the uranium removal, that as well. So there's a technology called a microbial biofilm reactor, MBFR. And so in these MBFRs, they're basically these big tubes, kind of similar to the picture I was showing of the MFC, but it works in a different way, but the reactor looks very similar. They've already installed some of these at wastewater treatment plants for other purposes, not uranium yet, as far as I know, but that's close to come, yeah. So there are other things like trichloroethylene, for example. It's something that dry cleaners used to use when they were cleaning clothes, and it's actually really bad. Like it changes over time to stuff that's really carcinogenic. And so we were looking at ways to use these technologies, and they're already being installed at places. They even have specific tubes that they can put in highly contaminated sites to do like point source fixing and cleaning. So yeah, a lot of these technologies are currently being commercialized.
Just to expand on that for a completely different field. So how many of you remember the 2014 Ebola outbreak? A lot of people remember that, right? So you may or may not know that there was no treatment for Ebola. It was something, it was a terrible disease that killed 50 to 90% of the people who got it. Well, there was one treatment that was given to some people who did, I think they were, I can't remember, is it American? Sorry, I can't remember exactly what they were affiliated with, but basically the treatment was made using this agrobacterium plant thing. So they designed this drug cocktail. It's the only Ebola treatment that has ever been given, and it worked extremely well. It was made in plants. So that was the first time that there was a rapidly released drug that was created using these weird methods in plants. So.
This kind of reminds me of when I was on vacation for about 10 months, and I came back, and all of a sudden there were self-driving cars here. It's kind of was like, wow, self-driving cars aren't the future anymore, they're the present. And it's the same with these technologies, this isn't the future anymore, this is now. Like, this is happening, and it's being used. People are investing a lot of money in this.
Do you think we're going to have more of like human-to-human bacterial health benefits? Like I know that people do poop transplants now, help with that.
It's a real thing.
But using humans to cure other humans with bacteria from switching them is going to be more of a pharmaceutical
I think the way things are going now is to sort of standardize what a good poop looks like to be transferred. Because when we're transferring, so fecal matter transplants is what they're called. Like it started out just being usually like a husband and a wife, or like a sister and mom, like whoever is kind of close to you, and that it wouldn't be too weird for you to, but
put some of their poop in your body.
Yeah,
that's how you know it's true love.
but then there's screenings that have to be done. Like, does this person have a parasite or a disease they can transfer to you? So if we can just like culture a standard batch of bacteria that would be found in like a healthy person's gut, that's ideal, and that's what people are working towards right now, so that we can make it, you know, less just poop straight up.
Yeah.
But that's coming. It's great. It's a great technology. Really.
Yeah, and just to expand on that, just in case there's anybody who doesn't know, like there is a lot of, she's referencing a lot of recent research on how important microbes are to our intestinal well-being. And so there are more microbial cells in our body than there are human cells. About 2 to 7 pounds of our weight is actually just bacteria. And so in the last 10, 20 years, we've started to realize that there's an extremely beneficial role that these microbes play in our body. So one of those things can be with, you know, you could like, if maybe you don't have the right beneficial microbes, you do the poop transplant from somebody who does, because that's got a lot of bacteria in it and you get the right ones. It sounds crazy, but yeah, I guess the main goal of the future is just there's thousands and thousands of microbes living within us, and it's very complicated, the ways that they interact, which are the good ones, which are the bad ones. And so current research is trying to find which are the ones that are actually going to be beneficial, and then how do you deliver those to a person or the right place to actually have them be useful for us.
And